I'll get Rick Everett to pray.
I got two.
Well, I wasn't supposed to do that yet. Welcome to the regular BCC meeting for November the 7th, 2017. Please silence your phones. I'd like to ask Rick Everett of Christian International to come forth and say our invocation, and then we'll have pledge. Please stand.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you today for the opportunity to meet, Lord, as an institution, God, to represent the people, Lord, of Walton County, Lord, and the issues, Lord, that you've laid out before us, Lord. We pray for wisdom and guidance, Lord, in these decisions that's made, Lord, each and every one of them will be made appropriate, Lord, in your will and your purpose. So we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're always glad to have Alex Alford, our clerk of court, with us tonight. I don't see anyone else in the audience that we need to. Okay, call the meeting to order. All right. Additions, deletions.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I think I'm okay. Under additions, we would like to add under the consent agenda a request to approve and authorize the chair to sign the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services State Financial Assistance Agreement for Mosquito Control. That's an annual agreement we enter into with the state that they provide us some funding for mosquito control. That's the only addition. Under deletions, under the consent agenda, item 12, which was a request to approve and authorize the chair to sign a change order number 3 to contract number 017006 for the 38 South parking improvements with Gulf Coast Utility Contractors, LLC, crediting the project cost of $102,000.92 and increasing the contract duration days of 45 days. Again, that is a deletion. The second deletion is under the consent agenda. Was number 4, was a letter of support for the 30A mobility study. That's something we need to do probably a little more review on. We will bring it back to you in probably at the next meeting or so for your consideration, but we think it's not quite ready to sign off on. Then under the county attorney, item 30, Brandon Oaks agreement with Freeport, the interlocal agreement regarding the septic systems at Brandon Oaks. We just received that back yesterday and probably need a little more time to make sure the language there is reflective of what the board's direction has been. So those are the changes.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda with additions and deletions?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now is the time for public comments. If you would like to speak to something on the agenda and you can't be here at the normal time that we will bring up each item. Each item will have a time for public comments. But if you have to leave early, then now's the time to come. If you would come to the podium, state your name, spell your last name, and tell me the agenda item that you would like to speak to. Okay, seeing none. Do we have any items to remove from the consent agenda? Seeing none, a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion. Yes.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, since Chapman's not here,
You still need to vote on it.
okay, we need to vote on the waste management EALs. Do I have a motion to approve those?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Larry Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The first item under admin for your consideration is a request from Kevin Boyle, the Seaside Arts and Entertainment Corp. The request is to close both lanes of Highway 38 from Seagrove Plaza to downtown Seagrove on November 25, 2017 from 4 o'clock p.m. till 5:15 p.m. for the annual South Walton Holiday Parade. We have included in your packet the process we go through when we're considering these events that require both lanes or requesting both lanes of 38 to be closed. Part of that policy is that if it's one lane, this board does not have to take any action on it. If it's a request for both lanes to be closed, we do bring it to the BCC for your consideration. We know the last event, there were some issues raised from some citizens about who knew what was going on when, who was notified, who perhaps was not notified, what time they started, what time they ended. So we wanted to bring you the complete package of information that we obtained from when these requests are made. There's a committee that reviews them, Public Works reviews them, the Sheriff's Office reviews them, and the South Walton Fire District reviews them, makes certain recommendations, and those recommendations are typically part of your motion. I think one of the things that I heard out of the last event was that they started much earlier than what they advertised they were going to start, and they perhaps ended later. So it may be that we simply say to the Sheriff's Office to make sure those deputies who are on scene make sure the road remains open until it's time to close, and it reopens when it's supposed to. Certainly, if there's any other changes you'd like to consider, we could certainly do that. But I just wanted you to today have the information as you consider this request, so you understand the process that that they go through in order to get to this point today. And
So
Mr. Ball's here.
I'm sorry.
Is Mr. Ball's here?
Yes.
So is it the while he's coming up, is it the responsibility of the applicant to notify the constituents, the people in the area?
Yes, ma'am. There are certain notice requirements.
Okay.
Okay. One of the things that we were talking about the last time this happened, I think we also need to look at what day of the week it is. That one was held on Sunday when people were trying to go to church and couldn't get out of their neighborhood to go to church. Now, it's one thing, to say on a weekday, a couple of hours, you can put off buying your groceries, certainly not going to work. I mean, all this has to be taken into consideration. But I think especially on Sunday, to make it where people can't get out of their home, I think we should certainly consider that. And also, why do both lanes have to be closed? We didn't used to do that. So, I think these are things that we look at.
Certainly.
This one is only an hour and 15 minutes. I don't see a problem with an hour and 15 minutes, but,
But-
much after that, people can't.
But to that end, it should be an hour and 15 minutes,
Yes,
not 2
exactly. It
hours.
should be an hour and 15 minutes from.
So as Kevin Boyle, B-O-Y-L-E, just as a point of clarification, so our holiday parade, it does start and stop on time, and usually the holiday parade actually goes a little bit faster than the 4th of July parade. We do both lanes of traffic for pure safety reasons, and we add a little extra time to the road closure so that the Sheriff's Office can make sure that we don't have any stray cars that have pulled into the parade route. But we make sure that we do start on time and that fire and police are both leading the parade. And it's on a Saturday.
And I've not heard any complaints on your parade. I've heard it's really good, so
Yeah.
thank you for
You
having it.
guys usually participate, so
Yes.
we
Okay,
welcome you to be a part of it.
all right. Any other questions? Did we get a motion on this?
Now, I'll make a motion, we approve it.
Motion, second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion from the commissioners? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The next item is a request to reschedule the December 26, 2017 regular BCC meeting to December the 19th, 2017 due to the Christmas holidays.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion? Do we have a
Second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? Discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is a informational item at this point. What you have before you are the current assignments to each of you to boards and committees that you represent this board and the county on. We're not asking for any action today. We just wanted to present you with that list. So at our next meeting, the 28th, I believe is the next meeting, that you will be prepared to volunteer to do most of these again. So I'm sorry that Commissioner Chapman is not here, so that's a good day to do assignments, but.
Yeah, I think we should proceed now.
Yeah, and by the way, he's sick. He actually has a high fever and came early, but had to leave.
So, subject to any questions, just take that and review it. If there are some that you would like to be considered for, note those. If there's some you own that would like to not be considered for, note those, and, we'll have those ready at the next board meeting. So I got a little homework between now and then, so we look forward to getting that done. Next item is request to review and approve the 2018 state and federal legislative priorities. We had these before you at the last meeting for your consideration. There were two areas that you asked us to include, and one was the water and sewer project along Highway 90 that would service the county property in D3 close to Commissioner Nipper's office. The other was the the fish hatchery from Choctawhatchee Bay. And again, Commissioner Chapman had left, but he had also requested us to prepare documents in support of the 280A roadway from Defuniak to Highway 280 from 331, and we've done that. So you've got last year's, you've got this year's proposals with the two additions you asked us to include. You can add to it, you can take away from it, you can prioritize them, you can give us your top one or two priorities and let the rest fall where they may. But these will be forwarded to our state lobbyists and our state legislators for their consideration in the upcoming budget cycle. So what we're looking for is, are there any that you would like removed from this list? Are there any you would like added to the list? And then are there any priorities that you would like us to attach to these as we move them forward?
Any
Is this
comment?
something we need to do today?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We need to get them,
Uh,
at least on the state portion of them, we need to get them to Tallahassee.
I'm fine with the list.
Okay?
I don't have any additions.
The only one, I'm not against it by any means, but knowing franchise agreements and all, are we okay with the city of Defuniak on?
There's some
'cause
discussions
isn't
that need to take
Isn't
place.
that in their franchise?
There's a small area there where the city of Defuniak and Mossy Head overlap in water.
We're working to correct that.
Yeah, but we're working on that now.
Okay.
I don't think that's gonna be a big issue.
Okay. Yeah, I don't wanna put it on top of the
Right.
list or way up there, and then they say, no, we don't want you to do that.
Right.
I've been kind of pushing it for a couple of months.
Yeah.
With a lot of hours.
Are these in the order of, are they ranked in the order?
If you'll flip to the third page back, you'll see last year's rankings in the left-hand column. I think there is a consensus, or there has been, that the water and sewer along 331 has, and probably will continue to be our top priority. I think from a staff position, we're good with saying that's our number one priority, work on the rest of them. Now, if you want to put some numbers and prioritize the rest of them, that's certainly okay. But I don't know that that's necessary to get the consideration. But if the water and sewer along 331 remains this board's number one priority and moving it forward, we could make that abundantly clear to our lobbyists and our legislators, but let them know that the rest of these that we strongly support as well.
Right.
So
I think that's a good plan, just
Yeah.
having number one, water sewer, and then, now, we had another issue that came up, the safe water for Walton. I think this is a great project. I would like to maybe send our resolution to Kelly Horton, our state lobbyist, and ask her to give us updates if the legislators take up this issue. I'm not so much about putting it here, but I think we should at least alert Kelly so she can let us know if this becomes an issue in
Very
Tallahassee.
good, I agree.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign.
next item, Commissioner, is a request to appoint Billy Williams as a Walton County alternate to officially represent the county at future Gulf Consortium Board of Director meetings. Commissioner Commander and I are both appointed from this board. We thought we may need that at this coming meeting, but I'll be attending. But there may be times in the future where we need Mr. Williams to sit in our stead, and this would just give us him that authority, that if we're not able to be there, he can sit as a voting member with your blessing.
Do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? Discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is a request to take action on the approve the pre-screen local triumph committee funding request. Just to give you a brief update on what took place. Last week, we had a meeting with the local triumph committee, which we asked that committee to review each of the projects that had been submitted, which I believe there was a total of 35 of those projects, and to score each of those projects on 3 criteria. One being, did it meet state statute? 2, did it meet the priorities, or did it fall within the priorities in the statute? And 3, did they consider the project transformational? We explained to that committee that the first 2 of those are somewhat objective standards. Here's what the statute says. We provide them a copy of the statute. Here are the priorities. And you can judge for yourself whether it meets the statutes and falls within the priorities. The third component was, is it transformational? That's a very subjective term and condition upon these. So we try not to give them any specific direction on what transformational meant. What does it mean to each of you individually? And so we asked them to score each of the projects on those 3 components. At that point, we compiled the score, the clerk's office did, and those projects that had a majority of those on the committee, that had a majority of yes votes on all 3 categories, were A projects. So in order to be an A project, a majority of the committee had to say yes to it met statute, it met the priorities under statute, and it was transformational. A B project had to have a majority of the board of the committee score 2 or more. So they may have had 3 with 3 yeses and 3 with 2 yeses. Well, that was a B project. Very strong vote, very strong support from the committee. C projects had majority of 1 vote. D projects had no yes votes. Didn't mean they were bad projects. It meant that the timing may not have been right. They probably needed some more work. So what we're requesting is that you endorse the A and B projects to move forward to the Triumph Board for their consideration through their initial pre-screen process. This got a little bit accelerated because of the deadlines they laid before us. They will be making these determinations on these total submissions have to be in by the 15th of this month, so they've only got a few more days to get there. So this endorsement simply says, we've been through our process, our committee reviewed these and found that these A and B projects were the most supported projects in regards to statute, priorities, and transformation. We will continue to work with the other projects to help them get into a position in later rounds to move forward. And these, I believe there's 15 of these projects, or maybe 16, and there's a list there in front of you, that we will also provide whatever assistance we can as we move them forward, getting ready for the first Triumph round of projects. That was a lengthy explanation. I hope it kind of laid out where we are and what we're trying to get to, but we'll try to answer any questions you may have.
Do you see a need for us to prioritize these?
I don't think so. I think we're good to say that, we looked at them and, the criteria was simply statute, priorities, transformation. If it met those, we're good behind them. I mean, if you want to prioritize them, you certainly can, or at least for part of them or some of them, whatever you choose to do.
The only one I would really maybe want to put first and then let everything else fall under would be the water sewer on 331. I mean, unless we get water sewer, we're going to have a hard time getting some of these businesses in, so.
And I agree with you, Madam Chairman, and I appreciate the work that you and Larry and the staff have done. And I know we need to move this forward, but I have to say I have some concerns about at least one that's on this list, and I personally can't support moving it forward, but that's just my personal feeling here.
Any other comments before, and we need a motion to, and then we can take other comments
I'll make a motion, we move forward with this.
with A's and B's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll make a second for
Discussion.
discussion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second discussion.
I've already discussed my part.
Well, this is a time-sensitive thing. If, just because we have this list doesn't mean we're gonna get any of the Triumph money. But if we don't have some type of list, we are not gonna get any of the Triumph money.
I agree. My concern is, when are they going to come back in front of us where we say, yes, this is transformational, this one is, this one isn't?
That's going to be a decision that the Triumph Board will make.
Yeah, I
But
feel like
what
And that's part of the
Agree.
difficulty
Yeah.
is,
That's what
as we understand the legislation, we were to put a process together
Yeah.
that folks would bring their ideas and their pre-screen applications for us to consider and to endorse back to Triumph through some means and mechanism. We think have complied with statute, that we said bring them to us. We had a broad section on this committee to consider them, and we've taken the three things that we felt that the statute addressed, and that's what you see before you today. I mean, we can move any number of them forward or not,
And
it's at this board's discretion.
There's a time at a later date for us to prioritize them.
Yeah, because I feel like it's almost a leap of faith.
Huh?
It's a little bit of a leap of faith
Well,
that the Triumph Board decides which ones are going to be transformational for our county.
But if we approve them today, then we put our stamp of approval on them, and we can't bring them back and say, oh, we're gonna prioritize them.
yes, we
now.
can. Yes,
Well,
we can.
That isn't what I understand him to say.
This is a pre-screen process. I don't know, and, Bill Williams is here and he might can shed a little more light. We don't know what the whole process looks like at this point. They're kind of piecemealing it out to us. What we wanted to do our best to make sure of is that what we sent back to them was what they told us to work through and send back to them.
Okay, Billy, you want to come up, please?
And I'll speak for Commissioner Chapman, short.
I've got watchdogs all over. Yes, ma'am.
What was your question?
My question is, can we come back and prioritize these?
Absolutely. Tomorrow, they actually have a Triumph Board meeting that we think the full application and some of their evaluation rulings and deadlines on the full application. As Mr. Jones indicated, this is strictly a pre-screen application. They will do what we're doing on a grander scale. They will look at projects that meet their criteria, and they're talking about hiring staff, both project managers and economists and stuff. So you certainly have time to come back. They will go through, look at projects that meet that, and then we can come back and ask this board to prioritize post that opportunity. So Mr. Jones is correct. This is just a pre-screen opportunity.
And from what we understand, this will be a rolling process. It's not going to be November 15th this year and then you're out of business till November 15th of next year. I mean, it's evolving as it moves, but the last we've heard and understood was that they intend to keep this process moving and keep the ability to put new projects before them on a regular basis.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
If we don't approve this, what happens?
It will not move forward as a pre-screen part of our local process that Mr. Jones related to. If you pull projects, or and certainly your prerogative, we wouldn't go through to the pre-screen process. So again, it's sort of the first step, and then once we know their rules, then we'll come back and establish. But I do assure the board that you do have the opportunity, and working with these individual applicants and you setting priorities like what you did with the legislative priorities, you'll have that opportunity.
Right. And as I understand it, we have a certain amount of money that we will get, we're guaranteed. And then there's a pot of competitive money. It would seem to me to have an advantage of getting some projects in early to make sure that we're, being looked at for competitive pots as well. That's.
Yes, ma'am. Statutorily, each of the 8 affected counties was guaranteed 5%, and that could be for any of the eligible uses, not just the Board of County Commissioners, but K through 20, et cetera. But we do know, based on the $300 million that is available, that means $15 million comes to each county and the eligible uses, and then 4% in the consecutive years post that. As Mr. Jones indicated, it's kind of a rolling process, but there's $160 million of that anyone in the 8 counties under the same guidelines can go after.
All right, any questions, comments from the audience? Yes, Mr. Hudson. Please state your name for the reporter.
My name is Bob Hudson, Hudson. I have some questions about a couple of the projects that are here. One of the projects that's on this list, the packet that was made available publicly on your website, had no documents behind it. I wonder how we evaluate a project that has no documents. That is the
You know what project that was, Mr. Hudson?
Destin Fishing Co-op. It's my understanding the applicant stated he was late getting that project in, and it got submitted somehow.
It was requested that, and I believe the committee took action to consider it at the meeting. It was brought forth by a Okaloosa County Commissioner that asked for that committee to hear it. It was courtesy to a fellow commissioner from another county. We asked that committee if they would consider it. They did, and that's the way they scored it out. Is that right, Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir. That was received by our local advisory board as a county-to-county request, and I was directed by the local advisory group to work with the staff in Okaloosa to see where Okaloosa County stood up. But that's why that was atypical, because it was a county-county request versus an individual applicant.
This is going to be a highly competitive process from what I understand. I don't know why we're using why it's a Walton County project if it was submitted by Okaloosa County.
It's a joint project. We actually are trying to get regional projects. You have more clout if you can join with your neighboring counties to have regional projects. So it was at Okaloosa Walton, as I understood it.
That was my understanding.
That's the way we looked at it. The Fisherman Co-op, don't they do their work on Black Creek or in Walton County?
Yes.
That where they own the property where all the boats come when they need to be dry docked and do the work on them. So part of that Destin Fisherman Co-op is impacted in the Freeport area of the county, because I believe that's where they own their property and they do the work on their boats.
Yeah, it's the bayou where the oil rigs come in,
Right.
and I'm at loss for that right now. It's not
LaGrange.
LaGrange Bayou.
4 Mile Creek.
Yeah, 4 Mile.
And the project was submitted by an Okaloosa County Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other thing that I have a question about is the transparency in this process. I believe each of you selected a person to represent your area to be on the local Triumph committee. And some of those people appear to have conflicts of interest by serving on the committee and then also being a part of the project itself. And I just wonder if that's the image that we want to put forward. It bothers me that is there. I'm not going into names, Larry. I did call or text the county administrator this weekend, I think citizens have a right to make questions and ask questions about this. I don't have anything against the project that's on here. I think the committee did some things that are very well, whether they're transformative or not, I don't know, and that is very subjective,
Very much so.
not objective, and so it's there, but anybody that would discourage citizens from asking questions about this, I have problems with. We need, as people have said ever since this incident occurred, since this oil spill occurred, this is Walton County's one opportunity, or in a long time. And hopefully we will have projects approved, but I think what we pre-screen indicates our level of ability to administer programs and things of that nature. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Suzanne Harris, Suzanne Harris, Harris. I guess I'd like to ask who submitted it? Who submitted the Destin fishing thing? Which commissioner in Okaloosa?
Kelly Wines.
Kelly Wines submitted it to us.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am, come on up. Bonnie serves on our committee. Thank you very much for that service.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. Bonnie McQuiston, McQuiston. I just want to say I commend all 35, I think there were 36 and then somebody pulled one, all of the people and the organizations that submitted these projects. They had a very tight time period. They had just a few days to put these things together, very little notice, so they should all be commended. I was sort of hoping y'all would just send the whole list over, even though, just let them have a chance. Now, Larry, did I understand that they will still have a chance at some point because you can help them, you can work with them?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yes, ma'am.
Good, because it was really a good effort by all of them.
And just, if I may, we were not trying to pick winners and losers or good projects and bad projects. That was not the task that was set forth to the committee. The committee we said, look at them, take these three criteria, and I hope Ms. Bonnie will, if I'm explaining, if that wasn't the understanding of the committee, but, we were not trying to determine, again, what was a good project, what was a bad project.
Yeah.
And those that we can help to move from what might have scored out a D or a C to an A or a B, we were more than willing to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, what's your pleasure?
I make a motion, we move forward.
Okay, do I have we've already done that, haven't we? We have a motion and a second on the table. Are we ready to vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
No.
Okay, 3-1, it passed.
Thank you, Commissioners. Madam Chair, as you mentioned, Ms. Bonnie was on the committee, but I know there's a couple others that were on there, Mr. Fletcher, and
Yes.
I saw another one or two. Who else, if you're on the committee, identify yourself so we can say thank you.
Raise your hand if you're on the committee. Thank you,
Ms.
Mr.
Fletcher was
Fletcher.
on it, and
Yes.
these are, they spent a long time listening to a lot of projects the other night, so it was quite the task.
Yes, it was a long meeting.
Let's see. what
Transfer
we have
station.
next. Transfer station, the request is to approve the final design of the new transfer station out at the landfill. We're ready to put that out for bid. So with your approval, we will move forward to that process. So the request is that you approve the final design and you approve for staff to move forward with the bidding process.
That would be my motion. We have been working on this practically since I've been in office, so praise the Lord,
Gonna be
hallelujah.
nice.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, any questions or discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is a request to advertise the request for qualifications for consulting services for a grant writer or grant writers. As we move through this process with Triumph and Restore, we believe there's going to be a need for some specialty grant writing skills that we're going to look for through this process. We have a great staff that Angie Biddle and the folks that she works with do a great job for procuring grants for us. But we believe as this process moves forward, there's going to be a lot of work involved in it, and it's going to take some expertise in this field and some specific knowledge of the restore process and the Triumph process. So what we're asking is simply to issue a request for qualifications to kind of build that portfolio of grant writers similar to what we have done with our continuing service contracts and our engineers. So we're not engaging them to do any work, but simply having them in place and have this board approve them being in place, so when the time comes that we need them, we can engage them to move forward.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion with a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion, questions? Seeing none, any questions from the audience? Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is request approval and to advertise an RFP for artificial reef construction and deployment services for the Topsail Here nearshore site associated with FWC grant number 17020. This is a grant project that we're ready to move forward with. It's funded totally with grant money, and we're asking for your request to move forward with a request for proposals for the reef construction and deployment.
So moved.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second. Sorry.
2 seconds. Any other discussion, questions? Seeing none, any questions out there? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign.
Next item is, Commissioners, is a request to approve to advertise for 2 vacant positions on the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board. There is 1 position for on lake, that lives on the lake, and 1 position for north of the bay. So with your permission, we will get that advertised moving forward, and we will bring you the applicants for your consideration and appointment at a later date.
Do I need a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a motion?
Second. Oh,
You first,
make a
I'll be
motion.
second.
Motion second. Any other discussion?
Who's on?
Comments from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Tusa. We had a great annual meeting the other day. It was fantastic. Thank
We
you
did,
for that.
thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. I just wanted to actually go over, under updates, some of our numbers for year end. We got our September numbers in, so you can kind of see the screen up there. I'll just go over the September numbers real quick. So September, we were up 2.3% for a total of $1,942,668.45. And so you can kind of see at the bottom, we can just go to the next slide because we have it highlighted much larger for the year over year. We have a total of $23,527,710. And then you can kind of see the FY16 number there. It's 21.7. So that's an 8.7% increase year over year. So that's some nice growth for Walton County. And as I kind of go through, I have some other slides that I kind of wanted to share with you. Some of our occupancy numbers. So for this year, we were at 60% occupancy rate. And then last year, we were at 58.5. So you can see we had a 1.5% increase there. And then on the room nights, we had the rate of $291.81 over last year, $279.27. And then you can kind of see the RevPAR, that's $183.95 versus $171. So growth all around for last year. Now, I'm really proud of some of these numbers. This is what economic impact tourism has on Walton County. You can see 22,000 jobs created by tourism in Walton County. That's up 10% increase over last year. We had 20,000 jobs. So that's nice that we have some steady growth for jobs in Walton County. And here you go, over 3 million visitors spend $2.5 billion annually in Walton County. So that's pretty significant. That's an increase of almost 19% year over year on the spend. So that's really good growth for Walton County. And then the next slide, 3.7 billion total economic impact. I mean, tourism is the driver to our economy in Walton County. So really proud of these figures. And You see here what tourism does for the average Walton County resident. It saves Walton County residents nearly 65%. Walton County visitors, rather, pay over 65%. So it saves an average of $1,070 for a Walton County family. So it's nice that we have the visitors here. I know, sometimes it's a challenge living here with visitors, but it's the driver of our economy. And so the trick is, how do we balance our life here and the visitors that come here? And all in all, I think we do a very good job of that. And I think there's room for improvement there. And I'm really proud of the TDC in leading those efforts for finding that balance between the locals and the visitors that come. And then here, this next slide, just so everybody knows, short-term visitors fund the Tourism Development Council through a 4% bed tax. So the funding that we operate under, it comes strictly from visitors and not from locals. So I think that's very important that people understand that the tax that we're collecting, we do a lot of great things. And the next slide illustrates that point. 45% of our budget is directed to beach operations. So, that's paying the lifeguards, that's paying Turtle Watch, that's code enforcement, the beach ambassadors, all the guys who are cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the beaches, cleaning the garbage cans. That's all those folks. That's that 45%. So that's pretty significant. I think that we need to realize that not 100% of our dollars are going to bring tourists here to Walton County. So, while that's our job at the TDC, and you can kind of see there for the marketing efforts, that's 43%. So I think this slide kind of really tells where our budget goes. So I'd also like to thank, the TDC staff for what they do, and then also all the people who support the TDC, the different committees that we have, and in the industry as a whole. I think we all do a very good job of representing tourism here in Walton County. It's a special place, and I think that shows through our product and the visitors that come here. So any questions on any of these numbers that I just relayed to you? Be happy to discuss any of them.
Questions from the audience? Yes, sir, come on up. Hi.
Robert Raymond, and my question actually is...
Could you spell your last name, please?
R-A-Y-M-O-N-D.
Thank you.
You said 60% was is that for the entire year per home in the bed tax program?
The 60%?
Vacancy.
Oh, for the, let me just make sure I understand. So
you had 60%.
60% occupancy.
Occupancy.
Yeah, so
that's for the whole year?
That's for the whole year.
Do you have it based on the in-season and shoulder season? Is it broken down?
I don't have it here, but we do have that information, and I can be happy to give it to you.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Tusa.
Real quick, just a couple of the updates. Wanted to get some direction from the board for beach ordinance meeting. We've had quite a few workshops, and we've discussed it in some past BCC meetings. And we need to set a meeting so we can kind of get those ordinances decided upon. And so I spoke with Sydney before the meeting, and she feels that she'll be ready with her part for the next meeting. And so I just kind of wanted to get some direction from the board of how y'all wanted to proceed, if y'all want to take it up at the next meeting. Obviously, the next meeting is the Defuniak Springs meeting.
And I guess just to jump in, sorry,
Yep.
Jay. And I'm sorry, I don't know if my microphone's on. I can have the draft of the ordinance ready to circulate to each of you individually by the end of this week. But under our normal ordinance amendment procedure, I would present that draft to you at a public meeting. I could do that at the next meeting, which is the 28th, I believe. And then at that meeting on the 28th, we could set a public hearing. We could set that public hearing as early as the first meeting in December, which would be at the South Walton Annex, if you wanted to do that.
That works. I think that's good. We don't need to we don't need to wait and
And I know Jay had some other scheduling issues.
Well, we
on
wanted
the-
to try to bring parking before you with the presentation for the parking program for South Walton, and that'll probably take a good half an hour, 45 minutes. And I know the beach ordinances discussion will probably take a good. We worked a lot of issues, so I don't think it'll take that long, but probably, to be safe, 30 to 45 minutes as well. So just not sure if the board wants the TDC to occupy about an hour, hour and a half of time. So just wanted to ask your opinion on that.
want to have a special meeting before our regular meeting. Are you talking about in 2 weeks?
Correct.
Right. Let's have it
Oh,
afterward.
no, ma'am. I
No.
think we're talking about the
December
December.
sixth.
The hearing.
December 12th?
December 12th.
December 12th. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't we do that an hour before our regular meeting, 3 o'clock?
Okay, what are we gonna be doing at the 28th, though? We're gonna,
At the 20, so under our normal procedures for amending ordinance, I need to present the
Okay,
draft to you
okay.
and ask you to set a public meeting at that time. That's what we'll be doing on the 28th.
okay, so we could do it on an hour before.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that
that's
would
a great
work out.
idea.
It wouldn't, yeah,
So an hour before on the December 12th meeting.
Right.
yes.
Great. Thank you. Any
Thank
other
you,
questions for me?
Jay. No, that's all?
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would we want to do the ordinance an hour before or the parking an hour before?
I think we need to debate beach ordinance an hour before.
The beach hour, oh, okay.
You set it a special, whatever, we can vote in that meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, there's no point discussing it, then waiting and discussing
No,
it
no,
again.
we'll advertise it for action.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Commissioners, I only have 2 items. The first item was deleted earlier from the agenda. So item number 31 is a request to approve and authorize the chairwoman to sign a resolution in the closing documents for the Waffle House, closing documents with Waffle House, Inc. for purchase of property in Mossy Head Industrial Park. And this is property that we are selling to Waffle House.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, any discussion from the audience on Waffle House, Mossy Head? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign.
And Commissioners, the next agenda item, item number 32, this is a request for you to consider setting a public hearing or for direction from the board regarding an airboat curfew ordinance. As you'll recall, I guess it's been about a month ago now, several citizens came to you and asked that you consider adopting some regulations on airboats. What they were asking was a little bit too specific than what we can legally do. But I did listen to their concerns and did some research and was able to draft, based on the board's direction and some of the citizen comments, a curfew ordinance that would ban airboat use or traffic from, let me get the times right. So it's from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. the next day and all day on Sunday. And this would be countywide. This is just the draft before you, so if you would like to go forward with this process, I would ask you to set a public hearing. We could do that either at the next, well, no, we won't, we'll miss the advertising. We would have to, the earliest we could do it is the first meeting in December. Or we could do it later, if you'd like. And if any of you have any questions and like to discuss the ordinance and the draft in more detail, we can do that as well, and I can put it back on the agenda on the second meeting.
I think we need to certainly set a public hearing
Public
for
hearing.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So the earliest we could do that would be December 12th as well, but I know we're gonna have the beach activities ordinance at the same time.
Let's do it in January, because there might be some of us that are out in December, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. What's the first meeting in January, Dee Dee?
9 January.
and we can, we can do certain times, and we can't limit the number of airboats in the bay at any given time, can we?
No, ma'am, we can't.
And we can't limit the launch places.
We could do that, however, after talking with Public Works of all of the county launch sites we have, probably the only ones that would really make sense are on the river, and they're very far from the current launch site, so, I mean, that's something that you guys could consider, we could adopt, but I don't know how feasible that is to accommodate all parties and that were interested in this matter.
Part of the public hearing. All right.
I'll make a motion that we set a public hearing on January the 9th,
Okay, and I will,
2018.
At 3 o'clock.
thank you.
3?
Huh?
Isn't
3
that a
o'clock.
board meeting
Do
now?
we, it shouldn't
This-
take that long. I think a regular board meeting.
I think a regular board meeting
Okay.
would be
You
okay
think
for
so?
this.
Yeah, a regular board meeting.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion second, any other discussion? Discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And Commissioners, I'll circle back around with each of you about this ordinance, just so you can have your input on that as well.
Okay, Commissioner Tony Anderson, do you have anything?
No, I have nothing at this time.
Commissioner Sarah Commander?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Say, I must be sucking on sour grapes lately. I'm just, there are certain projects that have been going on for as long as I can remember. And I think at some point, as my granny used to say, we either fish or cut bait. I would like, I know that we're putting in a turn lane at 395, but I would like for us to very soon take a look at what are we gonna do with that intersection? Are we just gonna keep on biding our time, you know, what are our plans? Because I'm not sure I understand what, I mean, we're putting in a turn lane, but are we gonna do anything else? Is that gonna
Call
be it?
Chance Fowler.
Sir?
There's a plan, Public Works has a plan.
Okay, good.
Call Chance Fowler.
Maybe Chance could come around and talk to me about
Yeah.
it, because I don't know.
Be glad to get it too.
Anything else?
Commissioner Jones, I'm sorry, and I failed to do this under my turn, but I would like to introduce our new Assistant County Attorney, so that's Heather Chrisman. She's right back here behind me. We're very lucky to have her and look forward to working with her.
Welcome aboard. Commissioner Melanie Nipper, you have anything? No. Under my name, we had a ribbon cutting for the new sports park. It was awesome. I'm so excited. We have an overabundance of students, children at We Care, not We Care, but Helen McCall Park. So this is going to give us a great opportunity to move forward and do some fun things with children. Also, I was driving here tonight and saw the new lights going up at the Boys and Girls Club. That's exciting because we can move some soccer around and have more fields for the children. And then this Monday at 1 o'clock, if you would like to come and eat barbecue or something at 12, we're having a ribbon cutting for Safe Connections. This is an organization that's been in our senior center, and they're moving to their own building now, and we're excited to have this happen. So that's all I have.
Commissioner, could I add something to
Sure.
that? As coming south, my God, that's the prettiest thing in the whole world is to see that land cleared right now. That, I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I just could sit and look at it. I mean, you know, it reminds me of how it used to be 100 years ago. So thanks to our Public Works crew and everybody. It's just phenomenal.
And they kept most of the trees. So
Yes, they did.
That was
Thank you.
awesome.
So,
Okay. We didn't have any citizen requests, did we?
No, ma'am.
Other public comments. You may speak about anything you would like to, as long as it's not personal. And you may raise your hand and come to the podium, state your first and last name, and come on up, Miss Lisa.
Lisa Boushey, B-O-U-S-H-Y. I may have just misunderstood, but I wanted to have you repeat again. You'll bring the beach activities ordinance on the 12th?
Yes, ma'am. So we'll have the public hearing on December 12th, but I'll present a draft of the ordinance to the commissioners on November the 28th as well.
Oh, okay.
So there'll be two
somehow I
opportunities.
was hearing December 28th, and I was a little confused about that.
Sorry about
Thank
that.
you very much.
Any other public comments? Yes, ma'am, coming up.
Sydney, I just want to review what I went over in the last meeting on ex parte communications. Ex parte communications are all communications filed with the clerk. It's not just the cover sheet. So when the public record comes that says all ex parte communication forms submitted by Commissioner Jones and Anderson, it wouldn't just be the cover sheet. It would be anything attached to it that goes. And I think y'all have had the same problem with Jen Sullivan, the attorney, when she asked for them.
That's right, and she contacted us.
Because
and
all
asked
of y'all, everyone's except those two, say see attached. So she didn't even ask for the backup on Cecilia and Tony's because everyone else files their ex parte forms and they say see attached. And so when you print them out, you have this many attachments. So you can really read all the emails and anybody they talk to. But if you look at Ms. Jones and if you look at Mr. Anderson, it just says varied and varied. So it doesn't say see attached. But a ex parte form is everything to do with the ex parte filed with the clerk. So if their ex parte form has attachments to it, then when somebody asks for all of the ex parte forms filed with the clerk from Mrs. Jones and Tony Anderson, all means all the pages, not just the cover page.
Okay, well, I apologize for that confusion because I do know that Commissioner
That's
Jones.
okay. I just wanted you to know I went back, called Tallahassee to find out what all meant. Was it just the cover page or was it the rest of it?
Okay.
And then I called Jen and I got everybody else's. So I would think if it said see attached.
Ms. Harris, could you come back to the podium, please?
Sure, I can, but I talk loud enough, so Sarah, you can hear me in the next room. But if it says see attached, you would know that she had talked to somebody, or Tony had, on the subject, and that it would be attached to it like everyone else's does. But if all it says is varied, you have no idea who they talked to when they talk to them. But if there are attachments, then I would suggest when I ask for all, it doesn't mean just send me the cover page. It means the attachments too.
Well, I apologize for any confusion because I do know Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Anderson attach all communications
That's
to each
great.
of their
So when
forms.
I ask for all of something, I don't want just the cover page. I want it all.
Sure,
Thank
I'll
you.
make sure that happens.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir, come on up.
For the record, my name is Bob Hudson, Hudson. I just have two quick questions. Hopefully, I'll direct them to the chairman. Were the members of the Triumph Committee advised of the Sunshine Law? Did they attend Sunshine Law training?
They did. We had a 5 or 10 minute
Yes.
at the beginning of the meeting.
And
Yes.
they will be.
You had a what?
A 5 or 10 minute briefing
Yes,
on
sir.
the Sunshine
and
Law.
we have a in-depth training that they'll be invited to on November, I think it's November 30th.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Second question, when you say the votes were taken at the meeting, are those
I'm sorry?
verbal, or are those ballots that they would?
I think they each scored them on paper.
Yes.
Okay. I'll send you a request. I'd like
Okay.
to see those. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hi.
Coy Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N. I have a question. Why was item number 30, the request to approve and authorize the intercoastal agreement of the Brandon Oaks, why was that omitted tonight?
It's going to be back on the agenda on November the 28th. There were just a couple of things that I needed to work out on that. So
Okay.
it's not ready for approval yet.
It's not ready for approval?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So as of like right now, is their sewage still leaking out into the bay?
That'd be a health department question.
Who?
Health department?
Okay. So ask the health department
ma'am.
if the sewage is still...
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. On that same topic, I was just wondering, how come, because it is a health issue, how come you didn't just send some pump-out trucks up there to pump them out until the issue was resolved?
Because it's private property.
Okay, well, I don't think they would have minded, but anyways,
Well-
I'll be back on whatever day it is you discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Seeing none, we will take about a 15-minute break.
No, let's hold up. I'm sorry you didn't see me.
Oh, I didn't see your hand. Come on up, sir.
Sounds like you got.
Wait a minute, wait, Mr.
Red Foreman, F-O-R-E-M-A-N, Red, R-E-D. All right, first off, I'm going to start with Miss Nipper. I'm Red Foreman.
Mr. Red, could you direct your questions to me, and then I'll answer them?
Oh, I'm apologizing to her.
Oh, well, you can, yeah, direct your...
Miss Nipper, I'm sorry I called
problem,
you.
sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't cuss her, but I got upset.
I get upset too.
And I'm
Thank you
sorry.
for calling back. Thank you for
I
calling back.
apologize for any inconvenience I caused you Saturday. The next one I went to was Miss Jones, and she said she'd take care of it. Well, this afternoon, Ronnie Yard, you thank him for getting that trash up in front of my house. They don't bring filthy dirt out there. I got plenty of time. I don't know, why are there Baptist? Why are there Catholic? Why are there Methodist? Why are there Democrats?
Mr. Foreman, Mr. Foreman.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you please...
Oh, I'm just asking them too.
I know, but you can't do that. Direct
oh.
your questions to me, please.
Okay, I tell you what, it's because we all disagree. That's why we got these different faiths and these different people. We all disagree. I ain't gonna have time. Stay tuned. I'm tuned, man. I'm tuned. Everybody read this in the paper. My hat's off to you, Larry. You got them all beat, buddy. But I got no problems with that. I like you.
Thank you.
Well, I gotta hurry. Two quick questions, Mr. Anderson. On here, do you have 3 administrative assistants?
No, I don't.
Okay, so this is a lie?
Well, I don't know if it's a lie. It may have been false information given to somebody, but I do not have 3
Okay.
assistants.
Ms. Jones, do you have 2 assistants?
No, I have one really hard-working assistant.
Okay, man, because you take all this and you take your assistants or secretaries and your road foremen, and then you throw in Rhonda and Mr. Alford and all, you running up about a $2 million tab. I mean, it's high. But I got no problem with that. I'm just an old broke asshole from up in the north end of the county, you know. But why have we got 2 deputy administrators? Can anybody? I know Zane Sunday. Zane Sunday's an honest man. He's a good guy.
That's Stan Sunday.
Oh, Stan, that's his son.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure he raised him right. But what about the rest of I mean, why we got 2 of them? Can anybody answer that question?
If you'll come by my office, I'll be glad to sit down and tell you what they do and how they do it, and you're welcome to come by anytime.
That's no problem. Well, I'm tuned in. Are y'all? This ad says stay tuned. I'm tuned. I'm ready. I'm ready. Some people got more money than they got sense. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I don't want to come back to this horse and pony show, or I don't know what all they call that, but excuse me.
Mr. Foreman, you're welcome to come back anytime you'd like to, and call me anytime you need some assistance.
Well, I hope I don't have to. But I mean, are you, one quick last question. Are you all honorable and faithful and do your job?
We do the best we can.
How about you, Mr. Jones? I'm sure you do.
He does.
I give it my 100%.
Miss Nipper?
It's up to these folks whether I do.
I mean, you know, and Miss Commander.
I try to do the best job I can.
And I bet Bill tries to do the best job he can. But don't ever lie. Man, liars go to hell. And I think it's a hot place.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anybody else?
Didn't mean to get upset and excited.
Yes, sir, on the back row. State your name, please, and spell your last name.
My name's Ethaniel Foreman, Foreman. I'm his son. I'm a little less emotional, more sociable. He's just upset about some things. There's been a lot of negativity. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for you, Miss Jones. You and your husband, I went through some adversities in elementary school, and I had to get switched from Mont Saunders to West Funiac, and no one would listen to my parents. No one would. I was just another poor kid from north end of the county, and it's not a laughing matter. Anyone who wants to discuss it in the parking lot, I'll be out there also. But if it wasn't for you and your husband listening and helping me out, I wouldn't be where I was today. I just want to shed some positivity on all the negativity.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, now we'll take a 15-minute break. All right, Mac, number 33.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Matt Carpenter for the Planning Department. Number 33, this is a request to accept the resignation of George Hebert from the Planning Commission effective November 15th.
And is he in an at-large position? Is that an at-large?
I believe this one, this may be Commissioner Commander's appointment.
Is this your appointee?
No, Mr. Anderson's Commander's, I think.
This must be at-large then.
I will confirm that in the morning.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion to approve this resignation?
So moved.
And a second? Any other discussion? Discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Madam Chairman, I need to tell Mr. Jones also that we need to find someone else to serve on our restore board because he was on it as well.
Okay, so that's a planning position and a restore position.
I think he was, gosh, what was it, architect or something, or on the restore committee.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Number 34, this is a request to accept the resignation of District 4 Zoning Board of Adjustment member Scott Rosenheim and appoint Daryl Burgess to fill the vacancy. As you may recall, the county hired Scott Rosenheim as county surveyor, which leaves us a vacant surveyor position on that particular board. Daryl Burgess has graciously volunteered to serve in that capacity, and he meets the requirements for that particular position.
Because we get into wonder if it was just me.
Do I have a motion?
approved.
Second.
And second, any other discussion? Discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Thank you. Number 35, this is a request to reappoint Latilda Hughes Neal to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Latilda's term is up for renewal. She presently serves as the chairman and does an outstanding job for us on that particular committee.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
A motion and second, any other discussion? Seeing none, discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you. We will also have, in an upcoming meeting, I think we have 3 additional volunteer seats to fill on that particular committee. So we'll be bringing some forward for your consideration. Item number 36, Larry asked us to include this item on the agenda. This is an update regarding the tree protection ordinances. We're presently in the process of having public workshops related to the topic of tree protection and preservation. We've held 2 of 3 scheduled workshops. The third one is scheduled for Wednesday the 8th at the Freeport Community Center at 6 p.m. In the meantime, Senator Steuben has filed a bill that could potentially preempt local government regulation of any kind of regulation of tree maintenance, manicuring, cutting, mitigation, or anything like that. It's a pretty broad ordinance. It also prohibits any local government regulation of even silviculture on residential lots.
Mac, does the word historical in that tree ordinance, would that, is there, if we use the word historical, I mean, I feel like we need to continue moving forward. They've already been scheduled. We've already had one. But
We've actually had 2.
Already had 2. So I would suggest that we continue to move forward as a backup and then see what happens as a bill.
Well, you know, we went through this with the medical marijuana thing, where we went and passed several ordinances, and the state came back and said, no, we're gonna handle that. I think that we probably need to wait until the state decides what they're gonna do. If we go ahead and do this, and I know Kristen's busy as she can possibly.
I made a mistake. Just do the last meeting, and then we can hold off to see what happens in the.
Okay, well, I don't mind. Let's, if
Sorry?
you want to do the will we have to do it again, though, if we?
No, sir. These are just citizen workshops.
Right.
That plan
I think we should go forward with the meetings, and then just have it as a backup to see what happens.
Yes, we.
Okay, just have the other meeting and then put it on hold until the state. Okay, well, I don't have a problem with
But
that.
would the state make it retroactive for every, you know?
If you had an ordinance in place, they would preempt it and tell you would have to
And the way it's,
adopt your ordinance.
the way
What's
it's
the
written.
reasoning behind this bill? Do you have any idea?
I haven't investigated it quite that far with the senator that filed that. But it's essentially state preemption of any kind of tree regulation by local government.
And Commissioner Commander, the House or the Senate bill is so broad that it could actually preempt existing regulations that we have in place currently, where those would also be invalidated.
If you recall, not so many years ago, they preempted all firearm legislation.
Yeah.
And we had some firearm legislation that we simply had to unadopt.
How long do you think this will take? I mean, how long do they have to adopt these bills?
So the legislative session,
Okay.
March.
March, and then the governor
Right.
would have to sign off on it. So we'd know in, late spring.
Well, I guess I'm not, are they gonna say that all regulations, so anybody can do anything they want to with trees on their property?
Basically, yes, ma'am.
That's,
Oh, too many palm trees.
It's very, very broadly written.
Okay.
The Senate
So I
bill
can
is.
cut down what I want and leave what I want, and county can do nothing about it.
That's pretty much the way it's written currently. Now that could change,
Who thought
obviously.
that was a good idea?
It also adds a provision that allows you to, or preempts local government from restricting the burial of vegetative waste on any parcel larger than 2.5 acres. So you could essentially have a vegetative matter landfill without regulation under the present
And
present
can they
language.
preempt if they're called historical trees or there's anything?
Yeah.
They can,
Okay.
yes. And there's an article, if you get the Florida Association of Counties news clips, there's an article in there that came to you this morning regarding this matter. It seems there was a state legislator, and I don't remember his name, senator, in Sarasota County, and he was trying to build a mother-in-law suite or guest house, and he was a little bit annoyed that he had to get a permit to take some trees down. Then he was even further annoyed that he couldn't bury it, the vegetation on his property. So that's kind of the trough this is coming through. But I think it's a fine idea if you know, if you want to have the next meeting and gather that information, and just call time out till we know what the, what's going to happen through the legislation.
And if that's March, I can't see that being an issue. It's not
okay.
like we-
Well, we're gathering information at
Exactly.
the present time, and we do have one more advertised public hearing.
Yep.
I mean, excuse me, public workshop, not a public hearing.
Yep.
We can go ahead and proceed through that process and complete the gathering of information and see where this leads us.
And then as soon as it's on there, if you could get with me and we'll put it back on the agenda
Yes, ma'am.
as to the fallout of the Senate bill.
Yes, ma'am, we
Thank
can do
you.
that.
Are you having good attendance at the public workshops?
The first one, we probably had roughly a dozen. The one at Rosemary, at Point Washington,
20-ish, is that what you said?
20, 25. People that come and they've been interested and they've been engaged, and it's fostered a good discussion.
No, Point Washington was a beautiful place to hold it.
Just think what that'll do to Point Washington if you're allowed to cut down anything you want.
So would their neighborhood plan preempt the new legislation?
Nothing would.
Nothing would? Not even the,
I don't think it would protect, the way this new legislation is written currently, it would preempt that language in the neighborhood plan also, I believe.
so I guess it would be important for us to let our legislators know our views and whatever they are. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 37, this board was kind enough to allow us to move forward with an outsourced stormwater review process on the single-family stormwater permitting. We need to formally add a planning fee resolution that adds that $500 fee. And this is our request, that you adopt the attached resolution for the fee that you authorized at the previous meeting.
Okay, before we move on, Lee, did you have your hand up on the, I'm sorry. You want us to go back? Okay, just pause where we are, and next time just yell or something.
Well, that's not,
I know,
that's not
I
really
know.
me, but
I know. Just-
I'll try. Lee Moore, M-O-O-R-E. I have a question first, is that if the tree, this is back to the tree protection language in the code, if it were to continue forward, when was that likely to be done or finalized into actual language that could be added?
In this legislative session,
No, I mean ours.
Ours.
Walton County's.
it would probably be January.
Well, this is my only just thought I'm throwing out there, is that it would be a shame if this does make, which I hope and pray it does not get enacted at the state level, and I'm still astounded by all this local rule preemption that they're trying to do, and this is a really interesting example of it. But it would be a shame if they ended up enacting it but grandfathering in existing local ordinances. They've done that on some types of these bills. And that could always happen during the process. And I think, I know personally that there are some organizations that are gearing up hard to fight this. I started getting emails today. It seems like in the last few days this has really come out. So I think that's a possibility. So that's my only thought, is that it would be a shame if we stop working on it to wait and then they end up grandfathering in existing ordinances. That's my thought to
My
to
understanding of the bill, that it's not going to grandfather anything in.
I know it doesn't now. I'm saying that that could get added as it goes through the process of legislative session.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, yeah. Back to planning fee resolution.
Yes, ma'am. The planning fee resolution, you authorized the fee at the October 24th meeting. We are moving forward with that process now, but we need to make sure that we have our fee resolutions in order, because we're about to start the auditing process.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
By the
Discussion.
way, Mac, how many have you, has this been successful, you think? Just a little bit of time we've been doing it?
We've offered this process to 33 applicants, and each one of them has graciously accepted the opportunity.
Mr. King shaking his head, so that's a positive. So, all right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. Moving to item number 38. This is a request by the planning staff to propose an amendment to the Land Development Code to amend the single-family stormwater regulations to provide for certain relief and hardship circumstances related to de minimis impact and some administrative relief when site constraints prevent full achievement of the full design requirements. One of the circumstances that we've encountered trying to implement the intent of this board to make sure that we address stormwater on every single family lot, and we want to support and continue the intent of this board with this proposed amendment. We've encountered certain circumstances where folks are wanting to make a small addition to their house. They haven't had to deal with stormwater. It may be an older house that predates all of our stormwater rules. But the way they're written right now, it requires us to require them to bring their site up. So we're requiring stormwater for things that without this addition, we wouldn't require them to do that extra work. I think this is a circumstance of we got great intent, the rubber's hitting the road, and we're encountering certain circumstances where we feel like that some amount of relief might be in order. This is not to change the intent of the board and the purpose that this board passed these rules, but this would just give us a little bit of an opportunity to provide some due process where people are in hardship circumstances, or where we can inject some common sense into government regulation. These proposed rules would be brought back to you as an amendment to the Land Development Code, and I don't know exactly what those will be right now. We'd just like an opportunity to give you the opportunity to consider some.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion, questions? Seeing none, discussion from the audience, questions from the audience?
Lisa Bauschy, B-O-U-S-H-Y. I'd just like to ask, is this, Mac, for just residential you're talking about?
It's a single family.
Strictly single family?
Through the building permit floodplain review process.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign.
Thank you, Commissioners. That brings us to item number 39. This is the Chapter 13 plant list ordinance, and this is the adoption hearing. Several months ago, we began a process of public hearings at the Design Review Board and had great input from some landscape architects, and we proposed some enhancements to the Chapter 13 required plant list that's used for landscaping in this US 98 331 scenic corridor. We had a bit of delay. We're now here at the adoption hearing, and we're going to ask you to adopt the proposed ordinance. The list of plants that we're adding are highlighted in the attachment to the ordinance. These typically are native and drought-tolerant plants and came at the recommendation of the Design Review Board and landscape architects that work with them. This provides additional flexibility in regulation of landscaping in the US 98 scenic corridor.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Second. Everybody wake up. Motion second. Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience on the plants? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign.
Thank you very much. This brings us to item number 40. This is the Heron Crossing Small Scale Amendment. This is a request to approve by ordinance. It's been reviewed by Rita Banignati. The small scale amendment application submitted by Dunlap and Shipman on behalf of Cole Inc. is requesting to change the land use from residential preservation to neighborhood infill on approximately 1.02 plus or minus acres. Project's located on County Road 30A in the Herons Crossing neighborhood and is identified by the parcel number in your packet. This is near the west end of County Road 30A. And is immediately across the street from Phase 1 of Herons Crossing. The applicant has followed the process, and we find that this, we'd like to ask the staff report be entered into evidence, and we find that it meets the requirements of the Comprehensive Plan Land Development Code.
Okay. We accept the staff report.
And the applicant is here to present the project.
Okay. Good to see you, Melissa.
It's good to see you, all of you. Good evening, Melissa Ward with Dunlap and Shipman on behalf of Heron Crossing and the applicant for a small-scale amendment. I do have a very short PowerPoint presentation, if I can plug that in, just to walk it through.
Could someone help Melissa, please?
There it is. I have a fancy jump drive, and it's a little hard to fit into some of the places.
They need to make them all standard, everything the same, but
Oh,
they don't.
that's good. Are we looking at it? Yeah.
Yes.
So Heron Crossing Phase 2 is about an acre. It's 2 lots that were not platted, but unrecorded subdivision, a half acre apiece, give or take. And they were designated as residential preservation. But as you can see, just briefly there, that it is surrounded, the orange around it is village mixed use. That is a mixed use that allows up to 12 units to the acre and a 200% FAR, which means that it's expecting to be a developable area pretty high. The history of the site shows that it was first designated as residential preservation and that the property abutting it to the south was neighborhood infill, and to the north was neighborhood infill. And so it was a little bit awkward for that little piece to be residential preservation while it's scrunched up by higher and dense intensities. Some of the things that changed in the area is, just south of this property is the Topsail Hill State Park, and that property was acquired in 1997 and through a great effort by some of the people in the community and the state. And the land changes around it were to BMU and village mixed use as they developed out, but the park, like there's a piece to the south that's called out as residential preservation, but it is actually park. So it's conservation land owned by the state. And the property further to the south on 30A is maybe called residential preservation, but it's developed as a subdivision. And so it's got a higher density as it goes. The subdivision on the north side is developed at DMU density, 12 units to the acre, and it's most of the lots are owned by the developer of this site on the south side. And the idea is to incorporate the subdivision as one whole subdivision, one HOA managing the whole thing. So the development to the north are houses on smaller lots, 12th of an acre, and the subdivision or the development to the south will be, provided we get approved, 8 townhomes incorporated into that development, which will be fit nicely into that mixed use area right there at 30A. The Topsail Hill State Preserve, while it is conservation land, has a significant amount of activity on it. They have campgrounds and stores and ancillary commercial uses, RVs, cabins, and education centers. Are you moving that? You are. So I just wanted to put that to show that there is a conservation area that has a lot of activity on that park. It's not just a preservation area. So looking at the map that you see, the map indicates that the property is surrounded by a higher and more intense density, and it would make a better solution for those properties to fit into the community by being similar to the nature of the other community. As a residential preservation lot, they would be allowed a single-family home on each one of those lots, and it would be a significant decreased value for those properties. The proposal, and my final slide, is these are the townhomes that will be similar in nature to the homes built on the north side of Heron's Crossing by the same developer. And so we are requesting an approval of land use amendment from residential preservation to infill. Unless you have any questions, or if you have any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Melissa?
Melissa, just want to verify that the traffic study that is in the next one is the one that's going to be proposed for this.
They are connected. Yes,
okay.
They are the same development.
Gotcha.
Are there any comments from the audience on this project?
I am never shocked. Lisa Bauschy. Do you want me to spell it again? I bet you've got it, yeah. Commissioners, with all due respect, and I have a great deal of respect for Melissa and the planning process, we don't need to keep changing things from residential preservation. And I don't know which part of this project also request, you can correct me, Melissa, but there's some part of the project that requests variances on things like setbacks. Our side setbacks are already only 7.5 feet, and they want 5. And then we've got 20 feet in the front, they want 5. 15 feet in the back, they want 5. We just keep increasing density. And I know that all of you recognize that this is an issue when we keep making exceptions and waivers for things. We're just increasing the density of all these areas. And while I do agree that Topsail has some areas that have a good bit of activity, they're a fair distance from this area. They're mostly on the south end of it, of the Topsail part, especially things like the stores, the RV park section is mostly on the south end. On the southeast section. So it's not like there's a bundle of activity that's immediately adjacent to Heron's Crossing. But I would just ask you to please, please, please really weigh very carefully changing things that we currently have as residential preservation to something else that allows more density, more activity, more traffic, etc. And when you get to the part that involves waiving setbacks and things like that, that's just, I mean, to me, that one's just a given. We've got setbacks for a reason, and if we start waiving them, that just allows, the only people that benefits are the people who sell the properties because they can make more money, cram more in, make more money. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments? There's one more.
Yeah, Melissa, please respond to the.
That's fine. I apologize.
Chloe Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N. Instead of commenting on each one individually, I would just like to say I'm against all of this overdevelopment. I agree with this woman who just spoke about everything, setbacks and overburdening the land. It is against federal law to develop any more of this land because the majority of this island has to remain undeveloped. I know you've all forgotten that, but it's a federal law. So really none of this development can be done. And that's about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Melissa, you want to respond to that other question, or both questions, or both comments?
Melissa Ward for Dunlap and Chipman. And I do, if it's all right, respectfully disagree. We're not asking for any variances, absolutely none. And the development that surrounds this property is very close to it. The north side of it's already platted, and they're going to be building houses. And immediately to the south is the entranceway to the park, which leads to the some of the campgrounds and areas immediately. And it's on your screen. It's not all the way to the south by the beach. And I understand it's spread out across Topsail Park. Topsail Hill is a very large conservation area, and they have a lot of area to develop however they wish. But immediately to the south is part of their entrance into it, which has an entranceway park, RV park. So it is already, and there's cabins just a little bit to the south of that as well. So it's not separated by conservation. It's the entranceway into the park, and it leads over to that area. So, but more particularly, it was very important. I agree that when development comes in, asking for additional setbacks, especially unnecessarily, is ridiculous. And we're not asking for any change in any setbacks. They're 20 in the front, 15 feet. And these are townhomes, so they're not actually asking for 7.5-foot side setbacks. They're asking for the townhome setbacks, and it has a perimeter buffer. So.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Seeing none, what's your pleasure?
I make a motion, we approve.
Do I have a second? See who that goes to.
Oh, because Commissioner Chapman.
Your choice.
I second the motion.
Discussion? Any more discussion from the audience? This is all new to me, so.
You're doing good.
Yeah, good job.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
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 No. Okay, 3 to.
I give up the chair.
Let him do it one time, he wanted to.
Come on. Come on. Yeah.
There you go.
We won't ever let you be chair. No, Jesus.
Good.
Heard that.
You're gonna hold them to it, aren't you, Mac?
Yes, sir. This brings us to item number 41, the first of our quasi-judicial items.
Okay. Anyone who anticipates testifying on any of the remaining items, if you would stand and raise your right hand. There we go. Wow. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide to this board will be the truth? Thank you. Whenever you come forward, if you would just state and spell your last name and state that you've been sworn in. Have any of the commissioners had any ex parte communications on any of these items?
If we have, we've turned it in.
Okay, so all of you who have will turn in your form with the clerk. Any of those ex parte communications impact your decision making on any of these items?
No.
Okay, with that, we're ready to proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is item number 41, Herons Crossing Phase 2. It's a request to approve by final order. The project was previously reviewed by Rita Banignati. It's a major development order application submitted by O'Connell and Associates on behalf of Cole Inc., requesting to approve an 8-unit multifamily residential development on 1.02 plus or minus acres with the future land use of residential preservation, subject to the previous action changing that land use to neighborhood infill. The project's located west of County Road 30A and identified by the parcel number in your package. We request that the staff report be entered into evidence.
Yep, we do.
And the applicant is here to present their case.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
My name is Neil O'Connell from O'Connell and Associates Consulting Engineers. That's OCONNELL, and I have been sworn. This project is the same project that we just heard as part of one of the legislative items, Herons Crossing Phase 2. We have a site plan here to my right. It's a 1-acre site located approximately 150 feet to the west of the corner of Herons Crossing Road and County Road 30A West in Santa Rosa Beach. Per the previous agenda item, the future land use of this parcel is now neighborhood infill, and the underlying density is 8 units per acre. As you can see from the site plan, The owner is proposing 2 4-unit townhomes for a total of 8 residential units. Each townhome is required to provide on-site parking spaces in accordance with the Walton County Land Development Code and is shown on sheet S4, which is included as part of your packet. The project is serviced by the existing roadway, Herons Crossing Roadway, which was installed as part of the 2004 Herons Crossing Development Order. Site plan includes a 5-foot sidewalk along the south side of Herons Crossing. The north side has an existing sidewalk. Site grading, including the addition of approximately 3 feet of fill, is proposed to provide for adequate separation between the bottom of the proposed stormwater management facility and the existing seasonal high groundwater table. The stormwater management facility, shown on sheet 5 of your packet of the drawings, is an above-ground dry retention system designed for a 25-year, 24-hour rain event. All public utilities proposed to service this site currently exist within the Herons Crossing roadway right-of-way, and the landscape plan, as shown on sheet 7, meets the requirements of the LDC and includes plantings typical to the area within the surrounding 10-foot wide landscape buffers on the east and west sides of the site. The south side of the site includes a 10-foot undisturbed landscape buffer to preserve the existing natural vegetative screening from Topsail Hill Preserve State Park. And with that, I will take your questions, please.
Do we have any questions? Questions from the audience? Seeing none, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Have a second? Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No.
3-1, it passed. Okay. The warehouses. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Commissioners. This brings us to item number 42, the Atchison warehouses. It's a request to approve by final order. The project's been reviewed by Bob Barante. It's a major development order application submitted by Baker Engineers on behalf of Chris Atchison, requesting approval to construct 3 7,500 square foot warehouses consisting of 10 storage units each on approximately 2.41 acres with the future land use of industrial. The project's located 10 miles west of State Road 20 in 10 miles west of US 331 on Highway 20 in the Trout Branch Industrial Park on Trout Branch Drive. This is Lot 10. We'd like to request the staff report be moved into evidence.
Okay, we do.
And the applicant is here to present their project.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Michelle Baker. I'm with Baker Engineers. This is, Mac explained, this is within the Trout Branch Industrial Park. It's a lot within the park, and it's for storage warehouses. There'll be 3. The owner wants to build them in phases, 1, 2, 3, right after each other, and they're just for storage, not climate control. There won't be any employees on site. It's just for people to be able to use the buildings for storage as they see fit. It met all the requirements of the industrial park as well as the land development code. There's a owners organization that's set up for the park. It's a legal entity. It's on sunbiz.org, and it's filed with the county. So that to take care of maintenance and all that kind of stuff. So did y'all have any specific questions?
Any questions? I noticed that it passed the Planning Commission.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good evening, Madam Chair, distinguished members of the Commission. A couple of questions about the, I'm curious, and this is probably a Mac question, is this was approved 13, 14 years ago, the industrial park, but it was, I know I was part of it, and I got approved 390,000 square feet impervious area and warehousing and industrial space. And I'm curious if somebody can tell me, why did they have to go through a major development order if the former developer went through all these rigors to get these approvals? Has a centralized water retention area? I'm just curious why that they had to go through a major development. Secondly, there was there was ever a maintenance entity established, and this has caused the staff some headache, me some headache, and others, these owners, this fellow in particular, he's been in this process for, I guess, close to a year, right? And so I understand that there's been a entity set up, and this is probably an attorney legal question, is now that entity's set up, would the county have looked at who signed off on that entity? Is all of these owners part of that? Because the reason I even bring this up, and I'm here tonight, is one of the owners calls me today and said they were never noticed of any kind of maintenance agreement that these people have signed up for. So
I would have to look at the, I guess the owners association that's been established to answer that question. I know MAC might be able to, this has a long history that I'm not really.
But you wouldn't have, Sydney, you wouldn't have looked over that to see that everybody that was affected by it signed up for it?
No, those would have been because these are all private, it's all private property, those would have been private documents.
Okay.
We would just make sure that there was actually a maintenance entity to maintain the subdivision's infrastructure.
And you see what my question is they got 15 owners, let's say, and everybody signed, they've established an agreement of maintenance of the property, but 2 of those owners were left out of that agreement.
I don't know, Mac would.
Our main concern about this particular development was the ownership entity that was the recipient of the dedication on the plat was never created. That's why no development has occurred out there since the county's last inspection. That has absolutely held up development in this park. The remaining owners got together and decided that the only path forward was to create the entity that should have received the original dedication. And once that was done, the county is satisfied that the entity named on the plat is a live entity and they are legally responsible for maintaining the common areas. With regard to the details of the covenant and restrictions, those are private. That's a private agreement between the parties. The amount of money that they decide that they need to operate that is not a concern of Walton County. Now that we have a legal ownership entity that is responsible as dedicated on the plat.
Thank you. And Mike, will each owner of these lots have to come back when it's over 5,000 square feet?
Yes.
Even though the whole project was?
Yes, sir. The present policy of the board is we size development order applications based on the actual request to develop, whether or not it's approved as part of a larger development. Now, we do have some larger developments that have actually asked for a deviation as part of their planned unit development approval by this board to allow their sub-projects to come back as minor developments without regard to the size of those. But it's presently the policy of this board where the land development code does not clearly require it to be defined as a major. If what the request involves more than 20 single-family lots, more than 30 multifamily units, or more than 5,000 square feet of non-residential, it's to be determined to be a major development to be heard at the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. So that's exactly why this development that is proposing more than 5,000 square feet has to go all the way back through the process. Now, we don't look at all the things that we looked at when the original PUD was developed because some of those things are already taken care of. The master stormwater, making sure there's fire protection to the site, making sure there's adequate roadways. Those things have already been taken care of, but the actual building construction and any traffic impact related to what is being built on an individual lot is assessed at the development order stage for that individual lot.
It's been 13, 14 years ago, Mike, but that segment of Highway 20, I paid for about next to nothing. I paid impact fees for up to 390,000 square feet. Now, it was minimal because there wasn't any, the road was not going to be burdened. So it was in the hundreds to get those impact fees paid. But Mike, what I was told is I secured those trips. And by the way, you know, as my grandfather said, there's only two types of business: my business and none of my business. I don't have any more, involvement in this park, but I think it's wrong for me to have gone through these rigors, and then the individuals have got to go through, when I got 390,000 square feet approved and all the impact fees addressed at that point, and now all these owners will have to come back and every single time be in front of you all, which is, it's a tough road to get here, is so I'm gonna look further into it. This is one of those rare instances where I think Mike's wrong about this.
Madam Chairman, just point of curiosity, what impact fees, Mr. King, did you pay?
Well, on the proportionate fair share.
Prop share fees?
Yeah.
And this was when? 14 years ago? 2003, 4?
8, 7.
5, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll get back with you. No big deal.
I just want to be clear that you were talking about prop share fees and not impact fees.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, on this lot, there are no transportation fees due.
So I hope you approve it. I'd like to see some things going out there, so thank you.
Good. And we're always open to improving our process.
John King, K-I-N-G.
We need to.
I'm sorry.
I said we're always open to improving our process and making it better, so thank you for bringing it up.
I can see that, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, what's the motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion, do we have a second? Motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on. Lot 4, go ahead. Just move it up. Go ahead.
Thank you. This brings us to item 43. This is Lot 4, South Orton Commerce Park. Request to approve by final order. This one was reviewed by Rita Banignati. This is a major development order application submitted by Choctaw Engineering on behalf of Smoky Hill Capital Group, LLC. They're requesting approval to develop a 12,000 square foot and a 7,500 square foot warehouse building on approximately 1.8 acres with future land use of business park. The project's located on Serenoa Road in the South Walton Commerce Park, which you will recall is immediately east of our new sports park and elementary school on the north side of US 98 in Beach Creek. The applicant is here and is prepared to present their case.
Good evening. My name is Mark Siner, S-I-N-E-R. I'm the agent for the applicant. I'm the president of Choctaw Engineering. Like Mac just said, we're here to get a project approved. It's approximately 19,500 square feet in 2 buildings in the Commerce Park. This is the second project we've done there. We just finished up one with this Design Build Systems, and they're coming in to do another one, and we're asking for your approval for the project.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Any questions from the audience or comments? Seeing none, what's your pleasure?
Madam Chair, could I ask that we introduce the staff report into the record, please?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Palms at Inlet Beach. This is our last one. Commissioner Commander's not feeling good.
Number 44, Palms at Inlet Beach. This is a request to approve by final order. It's been reviewed by Tim Brown. It's a major development on our application submitted by O'Connell and Associates on behalf of Hallmark Investment Properties. They're requesting approval to construct 6 residential lots on approximately 1.11 acres with the future land use of neighborhood infill and an Inlet Beach neighborhood plan designation of residential up to 8 units per acre. Project's located on the north side of Walton Magnolia Lane, east of South Walton Lakeshore Drive, and west of Magnolia Dunes Drive. I'd like to request the staff report be entered into evidence.
We do.
And the applicant is here to present their case.
Hello again. Neil O'Connell, O'Connell and Associates Consulting Engineers, OCONNELL. I've been sworn. This is a 1.1 acre site located approximately 160 feet east of the corner of South Walton Lakeshore Drive and Walton Magnolia Lane in Inlet Beach. As Max said, the future land use designation of this parcel is neighborhood infill and has an underlying density of 8 units per acre. As you can see from the site plan, the owner is proposing 6 residential lots measuring approximately 55 by 95 or 0.12 acres each. This is 2 lots less than the underlying density allows. Each lot is required to provide on-site parking in accordance with the Walton County LDC, as shown in the typical lot parking detail on sheet 5. A note corresponding to the same detail requires additional parking spaces to be required for all houses with greater than 3 bedrooms and comply with section 5.0202 of the LDC titled Off-Street Parking Requirements. The project is serviced by a single entrance road with a T-head turnaround at the north end. As there's no residential development proposed for the east side of the site, sidewalks are proposed to only be provided on the west side of the road and the north side of the T-head turnaround. The owner has formally requested a buyout for the east side in accordance with section 5.04.03.H.4 of the LDC titled Street Design Standards. Sidewalks have also been provided along the Walton Magnolia Lane right-of-way. As part of the site grading, a 220-foot long retaining wall is proposed to be constructed along the eastern boundary. 160 feet of the wall will be approximately 1 to 2 feet high, whereas approximately 60 feet of the wall will be 3 to 6 feet high. The stormwater management facility shown on sheet 7 is an underground exfiltration system designed for a 100-year, 24-hour rain event and provides sufficient storage for no off-site discharge. Utilities shown on sheet 8 include a new fire hydrant on Walton Magnolia Lane, located just to the west of the entrance, a 4-inch potable line within the development, gravity sewer, and a duplex grinder sewer lift station to transfer sewer to the Inlet Beach sewer system. The landscape plan as shown on sheet 9 meets the requirements of the LDC and includes plantings typical to the area within the surrounding 10-foot wide perimeter landscape buffer. On a community cooperation note, we had what I would also characterize as a very productive and professional community meeting in June of this year with the Inlet Beach Neighborhood Association, during which time we, on behalf of the owner, participated in a healthy discussion regarding community goals, wants, and needs. Though the discussion was wide-ranging, the residents in attendance requested that we ask the owner to consider reducing the height limit of the proposed houses from the 50-foot allowable limit to 40 feet. In good faith, we conveyed their request to our client, and our client, the owner of the property, agreed to reduce the height limit on this project to 40 feet. This agreement is memorialized in the site data table under the heading Development Data on sheet 5. With that, I will take your questions.
Do you have any questions?
I do have one question. I just want to verify that there is no change to the neighborhood sorry, the Inlet Beach neighborhood plan. There's no changes, it's actually less dense than,
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
That's correct.
and on the, we've got verification that it'll only be 40 foot.
Yes, ma'am. It's memorialized on the
Okay.
plan on the site data table. Yes, ma'am.
Right, this is kind of stuff we like to hear.
Yeah,
So,
right.
Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, what's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion?
I'll second.
Have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Pass.
Thank you.
Was that 3-1 or 4-0? 4, okay. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Sit right there, we'll be running my stuff to the truck, and I'll be right back.
Well, come get my car. Are you gonna get it when you come back?
See what? No, I'm gonna get it when I come back. I won't get my stuff in the truck.